Taras Jock McCardigalair, Taras Jock, Fáilte is Jock Gudgy, Malawerlin Shuck. Good evening. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. It's Misha Antone O'Moraku. This is Live Irish Myths episode number 311. You're all very welcome. Whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, please do join in the conversation by commenting, and we will endeavour to include you in the discussion. This evening, we are talking about music and early Irish music in particular. We're continuing, of course, to read the wonderful Social History of Ancient Ireland by P.W. Joyce. We're not far from finishing with that book, which means, as you know, we'll have to move on to something else soon enough. A lot of you asking about how we fared during Storm Éowyn on Friday. Thankfully, no structural damage, nobody hurt in this part of the country. Unfortunately, a young man did die in Donegal, and our thoughts to his family and friends and his relatives. There are lots of people in Ireland, I can't remember if it's 100,000 or 200,000 houses still without power. Some of those will not have power. Apparently, it's still over 200,000. Some of those will not have power restored until the weekend. We lost power at 6:20 a.m. on Friday morning when the storm was at its height. It was really bad for a few hours from about 5 a.m. until about 8, 9 a.m. And it was quite windy for the rest of the day. But, of course, an unprecedented storm in that it produced hurricane force winds, and the highest wind speed ever measured in Ireland was recorded in County Galway at around 3 a.m. last Friday morning. Anyway, hope you're all safe and well wherever you are in the world. And thankfully we're able to do this, and there wasn't too much interruption to normal life, as it were. First to comment tonight, highly unusually not, is Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter, and she is in Texas, where the temperature is 50 Fahrenheit or 10 Celsius. Well, you'll be delighted to hear, Elaine, that normality has been restored, because our temperature is 8 degrees currently. So you are back to being warmer than us. Philip Blair is sending some 4-leaf clovers and some shamrocks on YouTube. Philip, good evening to you. Hope you're in good form. Johnny Wilson, who's also in Texas, is saying the temperature is 8 degrees and sunny. So same temperature as us, except for it's nighttime here. So obviously it's not sunny here. But Johnny, good to see you. Hope you're in good form. Joe Butler, Auntie Joe, is in the house. I hope everyone is doing well. Doing fine, considering. Yes, Joe, thank you, and I hope you're well. Brendan Byrne is saying, just can't seem to beat you to first place. He's talking about Elaine. Hi, everyone. A day for the high stool, as they say in Ireland, or a day for the armchair, and Live Irish Myths. I mean, talk about the ideal, activity. Relaxing in a relaxer chair, glass of wine, cup of coffee, dram in the hand, listening to Anthony's dulcet tones. Wayne Bird is saying, hello, Anthony. Hello, everyone. Raining for a change in Birmingham, UK. I'm not sure whether you're being ironic, Wayne. If I said it was raining for a change, I would be, of course, being humorous. But a little bit of the wet stuff occasionally doesn't do us any harm. But looking forward to the forecast here is certainly giving a nicer week as high pressure takes over. Samantha Healy is also in the library. Good evening, Anthony, Tom, and all the Tua. Hello, Samantha. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. Rex Fortenberry is saying, greetings, weary travellers from a cool and damp Louisiana. Irish weather, maybe. Hope the recoveries are going okay. Anyways, let's get mything. Well, I couldn't agree more, Rex. And yes, in fairness, regardless of the fact that people are enduring hardship with no power, and a lot of them without water either, there is a full-scale effort underway to cut down all the fallen trees and to restore power lines on a level probably not prior seen in the history of the Irish state. And the history of the island, We had an unprecedented situation on Thursday last when the Met Office in Ireland, Met Éireann, and the Met Office in Northern Ireland, the UK Met Office, all issued an island-wide red warning for wind. We've never seen that. In previous storms, we've seen red warnings for parts of the west and southwest with orange and yellow warnings for other parts of the country. So it lived up to its billing, and I hope we don't see the likes of it anytime soon, just put it that way. Janet Moran is saying, hi, Anthony on the Tua. Hope you're all recovered from the storm to end all storms. We're good, Janet. We're good. A lot of people with structural damage, unfortunately, as well. So on top of all the stress of no power and no water and no refrigeration and all of that, they also have to get roofers and structural specialists and repair people out. But in this country, I'm not sure, is it a legal obligation to have home insurance? I think it is. The vast majority of people would have insurance on their homes for such eventualities. Caitlin Moon is saying, hello from Dublin. I am working on an academic article that deals with medieval Irish harps. So this will be interesting for sure. Mend crut. Yes, indeed, Caitlin. Very interesting. So hopefully we can help you with that. Janet Moran is saying hello from Boston. Good afternoon to you, Janet. Hope you're in good form. Joe is glad to see that Caitlin is here. Philip Blair sends us greetings. Hello, Philip, again. And hope your stream on YouTube is stable, because it usually is. So if anybody's having difficulties with the stream on Facebook, don't remember we're streaming simultaneously on the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel. Rex, Elaine is asking if Rex got any of those 8 inches of snow. Wow. Almost 250,000. That's customers without power as we speak. Michael Pike is saying, greetings, Anthony and the mighty Tua. Hope all are well and making the best of the weather. Yeah, as I say, things are perfect. And you know what else is really wonderful? Is the fact that there is now a noticeable stretch in the evenings. The sun set this evening close to 5 p.m. Yeah, exactly 5 p.m. Remember that on the 21st of December, on winter solstice, sunset here in Drogheda and at Newgrange and Douth and Nouth, the Boyne Valley, would have been at 4 p.m. So there's an hour of a difference already. And of course, once we hit in bulk, the days start to stretch out nicely. So we are looking forward to some spring, brighter days, stronger sunshine, and nicer weather. Anne McCallum is in the house. Hello, Antone and all the mighty two. I hope everyone is safe, warm, and in good spirits. Sorry, I can't join the live stream today, but I look forward to catching up later. A great friend of mine's father passed away a few days ago, and visitation is this afternoon. Enjoy the episode, everyone. Sláinte. Well, condolences to your friend on the loss of their father, and totally understandable. And your name will not be going in the book because that is probably a very worthy excuse for not being here for a live stream. But it gives me great pleasure to announce, following recent discussions about the non-threatening nature of the Lilac book, I have, in the meantime, gone out and secured, by popular demand, a black book. So those of you who are late or disruptive in class will find your names entered in the black book. You have been warned. That's not for you, Anne McCallum. Yes, indeed. 92 miles per hour where I am. Fierce storm indeed. Yeah, something else. Kept me awake. The rest of them slept through it. It's like, as soon as the wind started rattling the house, I was like, oh God, I just couldn't sleep. I was woken, I think, at 4:40 a.m. and I didn't get back to sleep. So had to make up for it the next night by having a lie-in. Kelly Nichali is saying frozen shamrocks in Seattle. Oh, is it really cold over there? I wonder, have you any snow? Kelly, pleasure to see you. I hope you're in good form. Deirdre O'Connor is saying hello from London. Hello, Deirdre. Welcome. Not sure if we've seen you before. If this is your first time, you're very welcome. Fáilte is Jock, and you'll make friends on here, and hopefully you'll find the subject matter interesting too. Teresa Collins is saying hi, Anthony and the tour from the mighty kingdom, and from a damp Killarney. It's 6 degrees this evening. I'm grateful to have electricity, hot water, and mobile phone services. I hope everyone's well. That's another thing that a lot of people around Ireland still don't have, is not just broadband, but actually effective mobile or cell phone, if you like to use American terminology, coverage. So it's they've been affected on every front. Helen Hirsch Chader is in the house. Greetings, Anthony, and all the Tua from South Dakota. Hello, Helen. A very good afternoon to you. Hope all is well in that part of the world. Rocio Mariana Lopez is saying, sending hearts on YouTube and sending some warmth from my town in Mexico for everyone who is freezing. And it sounds like Rocio has enough warmth to share a bit around the place. And how good of you to do so, Rocio. Thank you for joining us. Michael Pike is saying, pint of ale on hand and wonderful broadcast once again. Looking forward to what we will learn. Yeah, every day is a learning day, especially with Live Irish Mitzel. Philip Blair is saying, greetings from Washington State, USA. That's Philip who greeted us earlier. Philip, Mythical Ireland has a huge pocket of followers in the Pacific Northwest. Seems to be quite a gathering of people interested in ancient Ireland up there. Anyway, you'll be among friends, no problem. Luke Eastwood is saying, thanks a mill. Luke, you're very welcome. You're very welcome for the thanks. Not sure what that's for, but for doing the episode, maybe. Happy New Year. I'm not sure that we've seen you on a stream since the beginning of the year. Anyway, happy 2025. Hope it's a good one for you. Tara Weston McMahon is saying, hi. Hello, Tara. Lovely name. And one of my daughters is called Tara. And I hope you enjoy the stream. I have to say, after hurricanes in Louisiana, while we're waiting for power to be restored, everyone is out meeting their neighbours, cooking everything in their fridges. Is it like that in Ireland? It would be like that in some parts of rural Ireland, not so much in in Dublin and the cities. But yeah, people are very good. I mean, one thing that we've seen in the news coverage is ordinary people and farmers out with their machinery, cutting trees and helping to clear the roads, and people are very good like that in times of crisis. People whose homes are cold or who maybe don't have food, people going to do shopping for them, people bringing them around and cooking for them. Yeah, there's a good mehel, isn't that what they call it? Mehel, the old Irish the old Irish idea of helping each other out. Lexi Erickson, so glad to see you and glad you, Tom, and the two are safe. I'm driving, so listening only until I get home. That's perfectly well. Please focus on the driving, Lexi, and stay safe. But it's good to see that you're tuned in all right. Oh yeah, I saw in the Mythical Ireland group about the storm, and also a friend that lives in Belfast told me there were reports about it. Yeah. Was reading about the night of the big wind in Ireland. Maybe we got lucky. Yeah, well, that was 1839, was it? Icha Nagoya Moore, and huge number of Irish homes destroyed in that storm. Of course, houses back then were mostly mud huts with thatched roofs. Wouldn't have had the structural stability of a lot of today's properties. But anyway, Tara, can't believe that she caught us live this time. Well, hey, set your alarm, 8 p.m., well, Irish time, Mondays, and you won't miss an episode because YouTube and Facebook don't seem to notify most people that we're on. Barbara Murphy, I'm just dropping in to say hello to everyone working at the world's largest gem show, so can't stay. Keep happy, safe, and well. Wow, the world's largest gem show. That sounds fascinating. Any big diamonds or rubies or emeralds, of course. And most importantly, Barbara, enjoy that. That sounds like great fun. Burr Whelan is in the house. Hope people didn't suffer too much damage during the storm. Thankfully, we got away lightly, I think. Richard Burgess is in New York. Hope everyone affected by the storm will get back to normal soon. Yeah, still well over 200,000 premises. So you can imagine, I think, to work out the population, you multiply that by, is it 1.8 or 2.1 or something like that? It's probably affecting about 400,000 people right now. Glenda Stark Serena is saying, Glenda speaking from British Columbia, Canada. Thinking of you all, Glenda. Thank you very much for your thoughts. We're good in this part of the world. And the fact that I'm live streaming, means We have light and heat and food, so we're very happy. Glenda, welcome to Live Irishman. Tuesday Thompson is wishing us a happy Mythology Monday. Many happy returns Tuesday. Someone called Hoax on YouTube is saying good evening. Good evening, Hoax. You're very welcome. Interesting handle, but welcome to Live Irishman. Mavanway Millward, oh Lord, the Black Book is back. It'll be interesting to see if anybody's late this evening. Yes, indeed. Adina Sparks. Although previously the previous book was red, the red book, which sounded sort of semi-threatening, but the lilac book just didn't do it. Leave all money at home, including cards, says Adina. Ominous. The Black Book. Oh no. Oh, say it isn't so. So these are comments from a few minutes ago when I first showed the Black Book. Kodo wants to join us. So people are feeling rightly sort of, they're moving uncomfortably in their chairs about the notion of being entered into the Black Book. Yes, it is the Black Book. Did your wife approve of you keeping a Black Book? It's not my little Black Book Tuesday. It's just the Black Book for latecomers to Live Irishmits. The book doesn't count until the reading begins. That's exactly true, by the way. You're not actually late until the reading starts. Leslie O'Neill is saying hello from Bettystown. Did manage to get out for a walk on Bettystown Beach today. Still a bit windy. Yeah. Although the weather forecast is good. It's good for the next at least week, by the way. Not much rain or wind around. Nicer weather on the way, apparently. Trembling now, says Burr Whelan, after seeing the Black Book on Lower Dove. Just don't be late. It'll be fine. Adina Sparks is saying afternoon all. It's a nice 45 Fahrenheit here in New Mexico. Hope everyone is doing well today. 45 Fahrenheit is low. What's that? 5 Celsius, 7 Celsius. Cool. For your part of the world. Valentina Bernardi. Thanks, Adina, and I hope you enjoy the stream. Good evening from stormy and very flooded Isle of Avalon. Hope everyone is safe there in Ireland. Wow. I hope flooding not affecting properties, houses and that, Valentina. Lower Dove sounds scarier, says Rex. What happens if you're colorblind? Well, I presume you'll see it black anyway. Aha! Fantastic, says Mavanway. Not sure what that's in relation to. With no broadband, cell phone service or electricity, I hope people have oil lamps and some good books. A very good point, Philip, that I was remarking on myself on Friday when I couldn't work because of the power cut. And I just thought, well, I have plenty of reading material, as you can see, hundreds upon hundreds of books, and I have some manual typewriters. So if I wanted to keep writing, I could do so. Tara is saying, I have visited the Speaking Stones in Oldcastle 3 times in the last 2 months, and there is powerful magic in that ancient oracle. Wow, sounds interesting. Sort of almost mystical. Ivania Lee is saying, Morena Mighty Tua from the mighty Waikato. A very good morning to our friends in Aotearoa. Ivania, happy Tuesday to you from all of us still in Monday. I got the YouTube notification, says Philip. Well, that's brilliant because there's 22, nearly 23,000 subscribers to the channel. I'm pretty sure only a small fraction of those get a notification. Wasn't there a Black Book before the Red Book, or is that my imagination? That's a good question. I actually don't remember. Maybe somebody else will remember. Will you be able to get the bins down? Is the service disrupted after the storm, or worse? Were they damaged? No, they were fine because of where they were positioned. They have a nice little sort of space at the side of the house, and it's actually sheltered from the wind, although some people's bins were blowing around the place. I keep my eye on those books, as I usually end up in one. Mark Gordon is checking in from Iowa. A very good day to you, Mark. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're in good form. That was in relation to Brendan's comment that we don't go in the book. Sorry, Vanway. Yeah, that we don't go in the book until the reading has begun. So I'm all right. Whew. Rothio, before starting the reading, we'll be hearing a dad joke to cheer the mood. Richard wants to know, will entries in the Black Book be in our permanent record? Ooh, that's for me to know and for you to find out. There was a Black Book before the Red Book, says Michael Pike. There you go. Wonderful, Mr. Murphy, says Lynn Murphy. Welcome, Lynn Murphy. I always love welcoming other Murphys to the Mythical Ireland Library. Mariana Dunn, joining late to the Tua and Anthony. Well, you're not actually late. We've just been talking about the new Black Book for taking names of people who are late, and you're not actually officially counted as late unless the reading has begun. So we're only greeting people, so the reading hasn't begun yet. It mysteriously changed some time ago. Like our Monday evenings are booked. Looks like our Monday evenings are booked. Aye, permanent recording, says Mike. Sorry to see the photo of the tree lost in the storm, Anthony, says Elaine. Yeah, there might be another chapter in that story. That's the great beech tree opposite Newgrange on the public road there that was blown down in the storm. I'm very sorry to see it go because I consider it a companion. There may be another chapter in that story. I can't say anything right now, but stay posted, as they say. Does our record get erased after 3 months of good behavior, asks Ellen. Yeah. I haven't considered that, actually. I do look for repeat offenders, and I just think, tut. They really need to pull up their socks. A letter home to inform, parents and guardians and family that, such and such X has not been a good student this semester, Ali is saying hello from a busy Tucson, Arizona. The Gem Show here drives the city crazy every year, but the weather has been mild at least. Looking forward to today's Mythflix episode. Well, apparently Barbara Murphy is at the Gem Show, if it's the same one. She's just told us she was at the biggest Gem Show in the world. So there you go. Michael Pike says it's actually a badge of honor. I'm sure there are people who sneak in late to these episodes just to get their name in the Black Book. Bad dad jokes should go into the Black Book also. Well, I suppose they probably should, shouldn't they? Where is my... Speaking of which, where is my... Apologies, but my joke book has gone missing. My fruit and vegetable business has gone into liquidation. We now sell smoothies. And let me tell you that there are 3 kind of people in this world. Those who can count and those who can't. Heather Marie Leaning is saying, better late than absent. That's very true, actually. What about it's something I've never done, is take a list of absentees. Why don't they get their name in? Surely to be absent completely without excuse, by the way, is a far more serious misdemeanor than to be late. Good point. Somebody's laughing, presumably at one of those terrible jokes. Oh, what a pity the joke book is missing. Yeah, what a pity. Yeah, right. Tom King is in the house. Hello there, Anthony and the Mighty Tua. Oh, I'm late and in the book. Enjoy story. No, we've just been talking about that, Tom. You are not considered late until the reading has begun, and it hasn't begun. So you're not actually late. So you're not going, for now, you're not going in the Black Book on our dove. Right, let's get to it. Right. Early music. Last week we were talking about metalwork and the artistry of the craftspeople of medieval Ireland. Previously we were talking about the manuscripts and the beautiful design of books like the Book of Kells. Now we're moving on to music, so this one should be interesting. If you, Caitlin has a joke for us. If you don't like musical jokes, you have my symphony. Dreadful. Terrible. Worse than any of my jokes. Or at least equal in standard to any of my jokes, if I'm being truthful. Pretty bad. So yeah, right there. Adina is telling Tom that she thinks he is exempt from having his name in the book. I would be inclined to agree with that. Should you call it the Black Book or the Obsidian Book? Yeah. Obsidian is like a black stone, isn't it? Naturally occurring volcanic glass, yeah. The obsidian. It's the Necromonicon. Plato, Verato, Necto, or whatever it is, yes. Somebody will remind me what that's from. I know what it's from, but maybe you don't. Anyway, this is chapter XVII, which I believe is chapter 17. And it's about music. And section 1 is called History. Are we ready? Remember, anybody who arrives after this point is going in the Obsidian Book. Don't say that out loud. Oh, yeah, but I probably got it wrong anyway. Plato, Verato, necktie. Grace Reich is sending a love heart. Hello, Grace. Irish musicians were celebrated for their skill from the very earliest ages. Maureen Joyce is saying the day the earth stood still. If that's a guess in terms of the movie that I was quoting from, it's wrong, but I'm not sure that's what it is, Maureen. Our narrative literature, whether referring to pagan or Christian times, abounds in references to music and to skillful musicians who are almost always spoken of in terms of the utmost respect. You looked like Marty Feldman then. Who's Marty Feldman? I know that name. Somebody else is guessing the day the earth stood still. Not correct. Marty. Oh my God. Yeah, I know who Marty Feldman is. I can't do that with my eyes. Just saying. Like you know, a couple of people guessing a few people: Michael Pike, Maureen Joyce, and John Inman. Yes. Army of Darkness used the day the earth stood still line. Army of Darkness was the one I was thinking of. Rex, Army of Darkness, where Bruce Campbell's character has to go and retrieve the Necromonicon and utter those 3 words. And of course, he's very impatiently says to the old sage, yes, yeah, I've memorized it. Of course I have. And then he forgets. Obsidian is one of the hardest and sharpest stones, Ali tells us, despite being brittle. It was used in weapons and medicine before steel was implemented. There you go. Wow. Classic, says Helen. I presume, are you talking about one of the jokes or are you talking about that movie, Army of Darkness? Which one was it? Because there were a few different films in that franchise, weren't there? Here we go. Rabbit hole already. Oh, Darkness. Yeah, well, that was the name of the movie. 1992. The Evil Dead. Was that a trilogy? Oh, yeah. Oh, I just thought that's a very funny movie. This is my boomstick. The original movie from the 1950s, Day the Earth Stood Still. Okay, so I'm being corrected here. Apparently, am I right that phrase that I was uttering in relation to the Necromonicon was from an older book or an older movie and was reused in Army of Darkness? Okay, let's get out of that rabbit hole. Everywhere through the records, we find evidences that the ancient Irish people, both high and low, were passionately fond of music. Some things don't change. It entered into their daily life, formed part of their amusements, meetings, and celebrations of every kind. In the visions such as those of Adovnan, who was the biographer of Columkill, Saint Columkill, that is. Music is always one of the delights of heaven, and one of the chief functions of the angels who attend on God is to chant music of ineffable sweetness to him, for him, which they do generally while in the shape of white birds. The legend mentioned at page 395 Supra of a person being entranced for centuries with the singing of a bird while imagining the time was only a few hours is indicative of intense appreciation of music. And an equally striking example is found in the Psalter Naran, where the hard lot of Adam and Eve for a whole year after their expulsion from paradise is described when they were, quote, without proper food, fire, house, music, or raiment, unquote. Here, music is put in amongst the necessaries of life, so that it was a misery to be without it. In Christian times, music, says Dr. Keller, was cultivated by them, the Irish, as an art intimately connected with public worship, unquote. And another distinguished German scholar, Dr. Wattenbach, has been quoted as also bearing testimony to their musical skill. So there you go. We're both right, and so nobody's wrong. Klaatu Barada Nikto is a phrase that originated in the 1951 science fiction film The Day the Earth Stood Still. Thank you, Maureen, for that. I did not know that. Haven't seen that movie. Joe was giving us the old rabbit hole symbols. I was only thinking of Army of Darkness. So there you go. In the early ages of the church, many of the Irish ecclesiastics took great delight in playing on the harp. And in order to indulge this innocent and refining taste, they were wont to bring with them in their missionary wanderings a small portable harp. This is not a very auspicious start to proceedings. The fact that my throat is already dry and tickly. But anyway, we shall persevere. I have my Guinness. Let's launch it. And I have some sucky sweets here, some lozenges, if it starts to get bad. This fact is mentioned, the fact that many ecclesiastics took with them a small portable harp, is mentioned not only in the lives of some of the Irish saints, but also by Giraldus Cambrensis. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, Giraldus is well known to historians and students of mythology in Ireland. Gerald of Wales, a Norman era propagandist for the arriving Normans who chronicled life in Ireland at the time in his famous Topographica Hibernia. Is it Topographia or Topographica? Topographica Hibernia. Topographia Hibernica. Topographica Hibernia. Which one is it? Of course, I only have the translation here. Yeah. Anyway, you can find out with a quick. I have the Penguin Classics translation. Gerald of Wales, History and Topography of Ireland. Figures of persons playing on harps are, as we shall see, common on Irish stone crosses and also on the shrines of ancient reliquaries. It appears from several authorities that the practice of playing on the harp as an accompaniment to the voice was common in Ireland as early as the 5th or 6th century. John Inman says the film is on YouTube. It's very good. I presume you're talking about The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's an excellent movie. One of the best classical sci-fi film, says Philip. Movanwe, Topographia Hibernica, because I wouldn't have known. I would have been saying Topographica Hibernia. I'm putting the C in the wrong word. Topographia Hibernica. Thank you, Movanwe, for clarifying that. During the long period when learning flourished in Ireland, that period hasn't finished. It's still going on, surely. It is, but don't call me Shirley. Name that movie. Bet you can all name that one fairly quickly. I am serious, but don't call me Shirley. Irish professors and teachers of music. Sorry, I'll read it again. During the long period when learning flourished in Ireland, Irish professors and teachers of music would seem to have been as much in request in foreign countries as those of literature and philosophy. In the middle of the 17th century, Gertrude, daughter of Pepin, mayor of the palace, abbess of Nivelles in Belgium, engaged Saints Foillon and Alton, brothers of the Irish Saint Furza of Peronne, to instruct her nuns in psalmody, presumably the singing of psalms, Psalmody. In the latter half of the 9th century, the cloister schools of St. Gall were conducted by an Irishman, Meingall or Marcellus, a man deeply versed in sacred and human literature, including music. Under his teaching, the music school there attained its highest fame. And among his disciples was Notker Balbulus, one of the most celebrated musicians of the Middle Ages. That the cultivation of music was not materially interrupted by the Danish troubles, as in the Viking raids on Ireland in the 8th and 9th centuries, appears from several authorities. Wharton, in his History of English Poetry, says, quote, "There is sufficient evidence to prove that the Welsh bards were early connected with the Irish. Even so late as the 11th century, the practice continued among the Welsh bards of receiving instruction in the bardic profession brackets of music and of poetry and music, close brackets, from Ireland. The Welsh records relate," end quote. The Welsh records relate that Griffith ap Conan, King of Wales, whose mother was an Irish woman and who was himself born in Ireland, brought over to Wales about the year 1078 a number of skilled Irish musicians who, in conference with the native bards, reformed the instrumental music of the Welsh. And jumping in fairly quickly in relation to I Am Serious, Don't Call Me Shirley, Brendan Byrne with Airplane and Helen Hirsch-Chater with Airplane, which of course is correct and right, the great late Leslie Nielsen. A very, very funny man. But the strongest evidence of all, evidence quite conclusive as regards the particular period, is that of Giraldus Cambrensis, who seldom had a good word for anything Irish. He heard the Irish harpers in 1185 and gives his experience as follows, quote, "They are incomparably more skillful than any other nation I have ever seen. For their manner of playing on these instruments, unlike that of the Britons or Welsh, to which I am accustomed, is not slow and harsh, but lively and rapid, while the melody is both sweet and sprightly. It is astonishing that in so complex and rapid a movement of the fingers, the musical proportions as to time can be preserved, and that throughout the difficult modulations on their various instruments, the harmony is completed with such a sweet rapidity. They enter into a movement and conclude it in so delicate a manner, and tinkle the little strings so sportively under the deeper tones of the bass strings. They delight so delicately and soothe with such gentleness that the perfection of their art appears in the concealment of art, unquote. Topographia Hibernica. So the C is at the end, almost. Wow. It seems that Giraldus did have some high praise, at least, for some aspects of Irish culture in the 11th century. The Welsh king, Cynan, Y is pronounced U as in nut. 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 Yeah, but he has him here. Conan is how he has rendered it here. So, Conan. Conan. Is that right? Thank you, Mavanwe, as always. Whoops. Sorry, I see that Joyce has butchered the name and turned it into Conan. Yeah, indeed. The harp is considered to be the second oldest instrument, first being the drum. Almost every culture has a form of harp because they started as a bow for arrows. Oh, very clever. And somebody realized that when you're when you pick up a bow, as in the weapon, and you pluck the string with no arrow, it goes twang, twang, depending on the length of the bow and the tautness of the string. Boing, 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 boing. Yes, indeed. Now, where was I? I was getting distracted. I saw what I thought were lights down there on the desk, but it's actually just a piece of metal on the microphone. What's that called? Interface. Just reflecting some light. For centuries after the time of Giraldus, music continued to be cultivated uninterruptedly, and there was an unbroken succession of great professional harpers. That they maintained their ancient preeminence down to the 17th century, there is abundant evidence, both native and foreign, to prove. Among those who were massacred with Sir John Birmingham in 1328 was the blind harper Mulroney MacCarroll, quote, chief minstrel of Ireland and Scotland, unquote. Open quote again, of whom it's reported that no man in any age ever heard or shall hereafter hear a better timpanist, in square brackets, harper. And that is from Four Masters, AD 1328. Wow, from the Annals of the Four Masters. Excellent. The Scotch writer John Major, not to be confused with the former Conservative Prime Minister of Britain from the 20th century. Yes, he was 20th century. He's still alive, but I mean, he was the Prime Minister in 20th century, not the 21st. Yes, I'm right about that, aren't I? The Scotch writer John Major, early in the 16th century, speaks of the Irish as most eminent in the musical art. Richard Stanihurst, 1584, mentions, in terms of rapturous praise, an Irish harper of the day named Cruise, not to be confused with Tom of Mission Impossible fame, and Drayton, 1613, has the following stanza in his Polyolbion. The Irish I admire and still cleave to that lyre as our muse's mother, and think till I expire Apollo's such another. The great harpers of those times are, however, mostly lost to history. It is only when we arrive at the 17th century that we begin to be able to identify certain composers as the authors of existing airs. The oldest harper of great eminence coming within this description is Rory Doll or Blind O'Cahan, who, although a musician from taste and choice, was really one of the chiefs of the Antrim family of O'Cahan. Are you sure it's not Tom Cruise, C-R-U-Z? No, C-R-U-I-S-E. Never knew that, says Lynn Murphy. So that information in relation to the harp originating as a bow and arrow, brilliant stuff. And a lot of people chatting about that. O'Cahan was really one of the chiefs of the Antrim family of O'Cahan. He was the composer of many fine airs, some of which we still possess. He visited Scotland with a retinue of gentlemen about the year 1600, where he died after a short residence, and many of his airs are still favourites among the Scotch people, who claim them, and sometimes even the author himself, as their own. Thomas O'Connellan was born in the County Sligo early in the 17th century. He seems to have been incomparably the greatest harper of his day and composed many exquisite airs. We still have extant a short and very beautiful Irish ode in praise of his musical performances, written by some unknown contemporary bard, which has been several times translated. Excuse me. After his death, which happened in or about 1700, his brother Lawrence travelled into Scotland, where he introduced several of the great harper's compositions. Lynn Murphy is from Antrim. Brendan Byrne, there is a book called Harps and Harpists, says Caitlin, that has a chapter on the development. Each culture developed their own version, but survival of artifacts are slim. The oldest surviving artifacts are Egyptian. And Scott Doherty, almost an hour late. You shall have your name entered in the Black Book. Episode number 311, time 2047, and I think we began the reading at around 2027, so you're 20 minutes late for the reading. And Scott Doherty, you are hereby sentenced to detention. Stay back for an hour to study the history of the Irish harp. How are you, Anne? Are you good form? You're very welcome. And say hello to Bill as well. A much better known personage was Turlough O'Carolan, or Carolan. Born in Nobber, County Meath. Nobber is an interesting one. Some people think it's a funny name. It's derived from On Ubber, was the Irish name for it. It's in County Meath, not a million miles away from here. About 1670, and he died in 1738. He became blind in his youth from an attack of smallpox, after which he began to learn the harp, and ultimately he became the greatest Irish musical composer of modern times. What's the Carolan's Concerto? If you've ever heard that, that's the very famous Carolan's Concerto. They're all jealous of Anne Scott Doherty. Brendan Byrne is saying, wow, number one, how special are you? Michael Pike, lucky you get the first entry in the new Obsidian book. Yes, the Obsidian book. Very funny. Like the bards of old, he was a poet as well as a musician. Many of his Irish songs are published in Hardiman's Irish Minstrelsy and elsewhere. A large part of his musical compositions are preserved and may be found in various published collections of Irish airs. Carolan belonged to a respectable family and, like Rory Doll, became a professional musician from taste rather than from necessity. He always travelled about with a pair of horses, one for himself and the other for his servant who carried his harp, and he was received and welcomed everywhere by the gentry, Protestant as well as Catholic. You can even list this in your CV as a significant accomplishment. That's Michael Pike, presumably again talking about Anne Scott Doherty's entry into the Obsidian book. Anthony, you should do a video with Siobhan Armstrong, my harp teacher. She's the foremost expert on the historic Irish harp. I'd love to do that, actually. Really would. Do you know there's a very strong connection with Drogheda in the 1800s, I think? The Drogheda harp was very famous, and it may have been that there was a maker of harps in Drogheda who was the only one at the time. I'm not sure about that, and I remember asking Siobhan about that. So that's maybe something that we could turn into a bigger discussion. Fame at last, says Burr Whelan. First in the new Black Book, Anne Scott Doherty, who you have you've been elevated to a new fame among the Mythflix Tua. The first one to get their name in the new Obsidian book. So the second section of this chapter on music is called Musical Instruments. The harp is mentioned in the earliest Irish literature. It is constantly mixed up with our oldest legends and historical romances, and it was in use from the remotest pagan times. It was called crutch, C-R-O-T-T, or crutch, C-R-U-I-T, which always glosses cithara, C-I-T-H-A-R-A, in Zeus. A later term for a harp is clárseach, which is now the name in general use. Several harps are sculptured on the high crosses, some of which are depicted here. Of course, as I told you before, for some reason, all the illustrations in this facsimile copy of the book are blanked out, presumably for copyright reasons. Some of which are depicted here and at page 582 farther on, from which we can form a good idea of their shape and size in old times. From all these and from several incidental expressions found in the literature, we can see that the harps of the 9th, 10th and 11th centuries were of medium size or rather small, the average height being about 30 inches, and some were not much more than half this height. Probably those of the early centuries were of much the same size, from 16 to 36 inches. Very small harps were often used for singing with. In the story of Phelim Macruffin, king of Munster in the 9th century, already noticed, we read of a poet singing to a little instrument of 8 strings. And from the manner in which it is mentioned, it was evidently a type in common use. The specimens of harps belonging to later ages, including Brian Boru's harp, noticed below, are all small, still about 30 inches. But in more recent times, it was the fashion to make them larger. The ordinary harp of the 15th and 16th centuries, as we know by many specimens remaining, had generally 30 strings, comprehending a little bit more than 4 octaves. But sometimes it had double that number. Wow, that is impressive. See Ferguson's article, this is a footnote, on the antiquity of the harp and bagpipe in Ireland in Bunting's Ancient Irish Music 1840. Sorry, just going to have a look at the comments. Anne Scott Doherty, I was busy feeding birds, seeds, hummingbird food and suet. That will take care of most of them. Brilliant, great stuff, and thank you for looking after our feathered friends. Brendan Byrne, everyone nicked our gold and quartz. I bet we had a harp as well. Yes, indeed. Rothio is Roth. Am I getting it right? You said to put the emphasis on the row. Rothio. I have a question, and I don't know if it'll be mentioned on the book, but did the songs were written in a special kind of poetic rule, like limericks or prose, or were they sang not as? I think a lot of them were, and I think he said that about Carolyn. He was a poet and a harpist. I think most of them were written sort of as, yes, sort of rhyming verses. Ernest Mostly is on YouTube and is saying Gra o Alba. Thank you, Ernest, and Gra o Éireann to Féin. Good evening to you, Tróna Fáilte is Jock. Good evening indeed. Yes, but this is something that we can do more about down the line, because as Caitlin was saying, her good friend is an expert on Irish harps. Several harps of the old pattern are still preserved. Don't forget, of course, how could I Possibly. As long as I've been alive, the harp has been featured on Irish coins. Now, this is the euro, of course. This is a 10-cent coin. Let me just get this lined up and get my ugly face out of the way. Let me get this lined up. See the harp? It's upside down, of course. Yep. So as long as I say, as long as I've been, oh, don't do that, Anthony. Oh my God, don't frighten them. Don't scare them off. As long as I've been alive, coins in Ireland have had the harp on them. Just one of the great renowned symbols of Ireland, of course, the other one being the shamrock. You'll see that in the Aer Lingus Plains, among many other places. And, of course, on the Guinness logo. Rocio. It's Rocio. But do I do the whole fee? Do I do that? Do I need to? Rocio. See, you'll have to say it to me. I have to hear you saying it. I have to actually hear it before I'm able to repeat it properly. A lot of surviving songs are laments or praise poems that were commissioned by the gentry, but there's evidence that some of the melodies may be much older. Wow, and that's from Caitlin. Several harps of the old pattern are still preserved in museums in Dublin and elsewhere. The most interesting of which is the one now popularly known as Brian Boru's harp in Trinity College, Dublin. This is the oldest harp in Ireland, probably the oldest in existence. Yet it did not belong to Brian Boru, for Dr. Petrie's investigation has rendered it highly probable that it was not made before the end of the 14th century. And of course, we all know that Brian Boru died in the Battle of Clontarf in 1014 AD. It is 32 inches high, it had 30 strings, and the ornamentation and general workmanship are exquisitely beautiful. No specimen of the Irish harp used in the Middle Ages has been preserved. Irish harpers always played with the fingers or fingernails. The harp, just wondering, what else would you play with? The toes? The harp was the instrument of the higher classes, among whom harp playing was a very usual accomplishment. Speaking of recent times, Crofton, Croker, and Hardyman tell us that in the 18th century, almost every one of the higher classes played on the Irish harp. In very early ages, a professional harper was honoured beyond all other musicians. In social position, he ranked, according to the Brehon law, with a chief of the Boara class. A harper, moreover, was the only musician that was entitled to honour price on account of his music. The Irish had a small stringed instrument called a timpan, Timpan, which I always find funny because a timpani in orchestral or brass band terms is a large kettle drum. So they're obviously timpan and timpani are two very different things, which had only a few strings from 3 to 8. It was played with a bow, or with both a bow and plectrum, or with the fingernail. Oh, okay, so the harp could be played with a plectrum. I see where that's going now. That's answered my question from the previous page. And the strings were probably stopped with the fingers on the left hand, like those of a violin or guitar. That the bow was used in playing it appears evident from a short quotation from the Brehon Laws given by O'Curry, in which it is stated that the timpanist used, quote, a bended wand furnished with hair, unquote. And he gives another quotation that plainly points to the use of the fingernail. This little instrument was evidently a great favourite, for we constantly meet with such expressions as the sweet stringed timpan. Geraldus mentions the harp and the timpan by the names Kihara and timpanum. But the timpan is noticed in two native authorities much older, Cormac's Glossary and Psalter Naran. From the explanation of the name given by Cormac, we see that the frame, like that of the harp, was made of willow and that it had brass strings. I am pretty sure that tympan is mentioned in Ashlinga Aengiso, the dream vision of Aengisog from the Newgrange mythology. I think wasn't Caer playing on a tympan when she first appeared to him. I'll have to double check that. Yes, DC rightly interjected that time when I said, what else would you play it with? Your fingers or your fingernails? A plectrum. Yes. Silly me for not thinking of that. Excuse me. And Michael, yes, also saying a pick, typically with stringed instruments. In the 1970s, they tried to string it and brought it up to some tension and cracked it badly. Oh, that's not, is that Brian Boru's harp, is it? Oh. The instrument usually denoted outside Ireland by the Latin tympanum, Tympanum, or in its shortened form, tympan, we know was a drum of some sort. And to Irish antiquarians, it has been a puzzle how the word came to be applied in Ireland to a stringed instrument. Probably the Irish tympan was really a small flat tympanum or drum with a short neck added, furnished with 3 or more strings, stretched across the flat face and along the neck. Sort of a little bit like, not a ukulele, what's the Tom King, what is the, not the banjo, you know, the one, I should be able to think of it straight away. You know, the instrument that has, it's a small, like a small banjo or stringed guitar. It's not a ukulele, it's a mandolin. Thank you. An inspirational voice just wafted through the air there. The mandolin, yes. Wow, so my muse is inspiring me. Furnished with 3 or 4 more strings, stretched across the flat face and along the neck, and tuned and regulated by pins or keys and a bridge, something like the modern guitar or banjo, but with the neck much shorter. The drum, with a few small openings in the side, gave resonance, and probably during the playing, the body or the stretched membrane of the drum was struck now and then with the hand, as players now occasionally strike the body of the guitar, so that to some extent it still preserved the character of a drum. Ingenious, that's brilliant, yes. So it's a tympan because it's drum shaped, but it's really a stringed instrument. There can be hardly a doubt that Giraldus's tympanum was the Irish tympan, and that he would scarcely have given it that name unless it was really a drum-shaped instrument, a drum furnished with neck and strings. Concertina was Caitlin's guess. No, mandolin, Heather Marie, yes, and Mariana, yes, indeed. Yes, they cracked Brian Boru's harp. There's a recording. Wow. I think the best thing to do in those cases is just to make a replica, you know? Keep the original. Don't, you know? I know. They probably wanted to hear music from it again, but unless it could be strengthened. But then to strengthen it would probably be to alter it. There was a small harp called a kesh, which was used to accompany the ordinary harp, and which will be again mentioned farther on. On one panel of the north high cross of Castle Dermot is a figure seated playing on a small harp, which is represented as about 16 inches high. It is square-shaped. The top corner farthest from the player is sharp. The other 3 corners are much rounded, so that the bottom of the little instrument forms almost a semicircle. Possibly this may be intended to represent a kesh, but then there is no player with a larger instrument near this harper, as we might expect in the case of a kesh. The harp, as well as the tympan, was furnished with brass strings, as is seen by the explanation of kesh as meaning in one of its applications, quote, a small pin which fastens the brazen string of the harp, unquote. I think Coda is, hang on a second. Mr. Coda is demanding to go out. The tuning key was made with a wooden handle tipped with steel, like the modern piano key. It was called cran glacia, or tuning wood. Cran, as in tree, literally. Glacia, tuning wood. And it was considered so important, inasmuch as the harp was silent without it, that provision was made in the Brehon law with penalties for its prompt return in case the owner lent it. Wow. Both, imagine you could be fined for not returning your friend's harp tuning key. Both harp and tympan, when not in use, were kept in a case, commonly of otter skins, called a comich, C-O-I-M-E father T comich, a case or a keeper, and crut bulg, or harp bag in English. A harper was called a crutera. The word shenivera was sometimes applied to a musician in general, from S-E-N-M, sheniv, sound. That's from the tripartite life of St. Patrick, believe it or not, that's referenced. The bagpipes were known in Ireland from the earliest times. The form was something like that now commonly known as the Highland pipes, slung from the shoulder, the bag inflated by the mouth. The other form, resting on the lap, the bag inflated by a bellows, which is much the finer instrument, is of modern invention. Bagpipes were in very general use, especially among the lower classes. The ancient name of the whole instrument, or set, was tinne, and so Dr. Stokes, T-I-N-N-E. Dr. Stokes renders this word in the passage of the Broyan da Derga, where King Connery's 9 pipers are described. If you want to follow that one, Revue Celtique, volume 22. The pipers themselves are called in the same passage Cuslanach, from Cusla, or now Cuisle in modern Irish, a pipe, one of the pipes of the tinne. As there were 9 players here, we can see that the custom then probably was, as it is now in Scotland, to have a body of pipers playing together. That the pipes or tinne of those days were much the same as the Scotch or Highland pipes of our time may be inferred from the descriptive epithet ceharchoire. That's how it's rendered in Irish, and he has the anglicization here, ceharcara, applied to the set of pipes in the above-mentioned passage. This term means four-tuned, from cehar, four, cehar in modern Irish, and cor, C-O for the I-or, tuning. And as Dr. Stokes remarks, quotes, quote, seems to refer to the tuning of the chanter, of the 2 shorter reed drones, and of the longest drone, 4 in all. Now, just let me check how we're doing in terms of page count, because, okay, I want to see how far we've come and how much more we have to read, just to try and work out where we stop tonight and where we pick up next week. Apologies for the interruption. Deborah Gilbert. Should we break the news to Deborah, folks? Yeah, I think this is the perfect time to stop, actually. So, Deirdre, you're late. You're very welcome. You're late, which means you get your name taken in the Obsidian Book, also known as the Black Book. Deborah Gilbert episode 311, time 21:10. Coda's going bananas outside. Deborah, you're the second one to get your name in the book this evening. You are now number 2. Many congrats, says Brendan. Yes. My Yeats and Irish folklore book just arrived. Yes. I've been enjoying that, although I've been so distracted. I've been reading so many different books, dipping in and out of everything and not sticking with any particular one. So I should mention that Mythical Ireland 2025 reprint is going ahead. I think I did mention that. And the files will be sent to the printer within the week. So if you haven't already got a copy of Mythical Ireland and you want one, you can pre-order at that link that I've just shared there. And I should also just briefly mention the Fornox book. That is my book about Fornox, which was published in early August, last August, sold out, and I had to get a reprint done. And that reprint has arrived, but it is very slightly an expanded version of the original, because after the publication of the original, only a couple of weeks afterwards, during Heritage Week, we learned about the study of the bones of Fornox that's been undertaken, and there was some new information in that talk, which is included in an expanded chapter that's called A Study of the Ancient Bones. So the original book, that chapter is 4 pages. In the new book, that chapter is 8 pages. So it is a very slightly expanded version of the original. So basically, Lexi and all the rest of you, if you got your copy of Fornox, you have to get another one because it's a different book. It's 4 pages bigger. See how I managed to sell that? Never mind. Oh no! Blacklisted, says Deborah. Yes, please stay back for detention. You have to study the history of Irish music, the harp, and the bagpipes. And I will set out an assignment featuring 20 questions to be answered by you as a result of your tardiness to this lesson. Of course, I'm joking, and it's all part of the fun here. But yes, it seems that the obsidian book, or the black book, is much more threatening than the lilac book. Oh no, not the lilac book. Sounds like you're going to be tickled with cushions and placed in a comfy chair. What's that from? I think Anthony coloured in the purple book during the storm when we couldn't go out. Well, you see, you might have said that, except for here they both are, and they're actually different sizes. So there's no cheating here, Brendan. No, can't do it. Anyway, if there are any questions, I'll hang around for a few minutes. What time are we on? 9:15. Oh, yeah. Don't forget to put the bins out, Anthony. Yeah, I know. Anyway, Annalie Rantala, I think it is. Are you in Lapland? Are you saying hello from Lapland in Finland? A very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us, Anneli. I think that's the first time we've seen you. So you're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. And thank you very much for joining us. Okay, put me down for one. The new Fornox is Anthony Sy. I was joking. I really was. And I expect that in time, we're going to hear more from that project, the study of the Fornox bones, because the 2 academic archaeologists, Dr. Jessica Smith and Dr. Johnny Gieber, have applied and are awaiting for, I believe, carbon dates. So we're going to have something for the first time that we haven't had since Fornox was excavated 75 years ago in 1950. We're now going to have an indication of the time period in which it was built. We think it's likely that it was built around the same time as Newgrange, but of course we don't know the answer to that because we've no carbon dates. Not the comfy chair, says Caitlin Moon. Yes. I was taking a nap just after flying in from storm-torn Monaghan. Wow. Yeah, Monaghan got hit fairly badly, you know. Thanks, Anneli. Yes, you're very welcome. And please do join us for future episodes every Monday at the same time. Ivania says, David played the harp before Saul painting by Rembrandt Museum. A Stadel random thought, but there you go. I'm not quite making head or tail of that. The Rembrandt Museum is in Stadel, is it? I'm not sure where that is. Sorry about that, Ivania. How is your latest fiction book going? It isn't, is the quick answer, but that's okay. There's lots of plans, and I'm very, very, very busy with writing activities, but there's a lot that I can't say right now, but I hope to have some announcements in the near future. Also, random thought too, little David, play on your harp. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Yeah. Where was the harp first invented? Was it Egypt? The oldest surviving harps are from Egypt, I think Caitlin said. Did she say that? Or am I imagining that she said that? Or am I confusing that with something else she said about Egypt? That would be typical for me to confuse things. But anyway, yeah, that seems to be it. Amsterdam, the museum, says DC. Yeah, so I think we will, at some point, definitely take up Caitlin's suggestion and do an episode purely on the harp, but with an expert on the harp. It'd be nice to do that in a setting where we could have some people playing the harp too. Let's not just talk about it, let's hear it. Yeah, keep that in mind. That's something we could do, I think. Mythical Ireland really should be a TV channel with proper funding and, you know, with the right sort of backing. There's a lot of programs and really good TV that I'd like to make or like to be involved with. Anyway, that's it. So much to do. So busy. Elaine is saying, thanks again, Anthony. Great episode. Very interesting about the harp. Yeah, it is. And it's a sad thing, though, that we don't have any really old harps left, you know, the originals, as it were. This is the book you need for the history on Caitlin's recommendation. You can dip in to the beginning on Amazon, and that's a link that is shared there by Movanwe. Harps and Harpists, Revised Edition. And Rosalind Wrench. I'm gonna have to put that on my wanted list. 1989, a revised version of the original 1989. Thank you for sharing that. Brilliant stuff. Monday night is sort of being in a warm embrace with friends. Thank you, Anthony, on the tour. You're very welcome, Brendan. Thank you for coming along, as always. It's a great pleasure to have you in the library. Caitlin Moon is saying, yes, the oldest surviving artifacts are in Egypt, but it's impossible to tell where. Probably the Russian Steppes Mountains. Wow. And how far back are we talking? We're talking prehistory. Lily Shambles, cheers. Take care all. Thank you, Lily. And best wishes to you. Have a great week. And you, Helen, also. Have a fabulous week and a safe week, of course. Valentina, that'll be grand. Yes, indeed, and it will. And all that remains at this point for me to say is, apart from, please do consider, if you're not already, becoming a patron of Mythical Ireland and support the work of the channel. Also, the one in the museum on Kildare Street has been reconstructed, one based off some metal fragments, and it is wrong. Ivani Lee, random thought number 3, a beautifully bound Moore's Irish Melodies and a bird's eye view from Farmley Library, with thanks to Nuala Canny, OPW librarian. Great idea, Anthony, but I gave up on RTE since they gave up on Real Irish Comedy. Maybe make a pitch to Virgin Media. Anybody who'll take it, basically, at this point. Barb, I came in late. Says Barb. Is that an admission? I'm going to watch what I missed later. Barb. Hi, Barb. I believe Barb's name must go in the Obsidian book. Barb Jordan. Late. You've just been entered in the Black Book, alternatively known as the Obsidian Book. And all the rest of the people are jealous. Or maybe you just said that because you wanted to get your name in it. I don't know. Had a little accident last Sunday. Oh, this is Desiree. Tripped and fell on poor Amadeus. Broke 2 of his ribs. So we were at the vet last week. He's doing better now, but it was a rough few days. Oh, no. Oh. And you missed Coda absolutely going nuts here a while ago, barking his head off. Well, I'm glad to hear you're both okay, Desiree. That's the main thing. And good evening to you. And hello and goodbye, as it were. Never say the word late. Yeah, never admit to it. Haha, won't be the first time, says Barb, getting your name in the book. Yay, I'm not alone, says Deborah. No, and Scott Doherty was the first. So there's 3 of you in there. All women, by the way. Very interesting. Seems the men can be on time, but the women can't. Of course, I'm joking. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Please do return next week. We're not very far from finishing our exploration of Joyce's A Social History of Ancient Ireland. There's lots more in the library that we can do and we can read from. We are going to do an episode about the need for new translations of the Irish manuscripts. That's coming, along with lots of other stuff. Don't worry, we've enough to keep us busy for a long time into the future. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Take it easy. Have a great day. Have a great week. Do come back next time. All that remains for me to say at this point is Ikawa, Kolosov, Slán go fóil, agus tó go bogé.